Good day everyone and welcome to another vlog for the Exodus 7 to 12 KJV project. Now this week we will continue with the storyboards. Unfortunately I didn't have the time to put it into a video with audio and all that kind of stuff, but I did get to do quite a bit of storyboarding. So last time we stopped with this frame, which was a little bit ahead. So what I did this week was I started off with the confrontation scene, which you guys remember over here. And from this one, Aaron was first supposed to strike the water, and Pharaoh was supposed to confront the magicians so that they would do the similar thing. Not the exact same thing, but a similar thing. So there was Pharaoh on his little boat. Just looking at them while they were speaking, slight scene change just to keep it interesting visually. And then we get to the new stuff, where Aaron stretches out his hand over the water in Egypt to turn everything to blood, which includes, let me just get the screenplay. Okay, here we go. Which includes their streams, the rivers, ponds, any pool of water, and also vessels of wood and vessels of stone, which I assume is pretty much everything that they had that could contain water. So this here would indicate, at first I wanted to go with a split screen kind of bar, but then I decided I felt led to stick with almost like a pull across. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a slide with a slight angle that's faded. That's why this squiggle is here and this arrow. So it signifies that as he puts out his hands, the water in vessels of wood, streams, rivers, ponds, and of course vessels of stone. Now the only vessels of stone that come to mind when I think of Egypt is the wells that they put together for the shadoofs that you find next to the fields. And that's the only stone thing I can think of that they used. Probably that and other reservoir type constructions. Okay, so then Aaron turns back around. Remember we talked about this in a previous vlog about the direction he would face for the river, all that kind of stuff. Moses looks a little bit too shocked in this one, but whatever, we're working with it. And this is Aaron's head. So the goal is for a slight zoom out as he prepares to strike the water. Just a little bit of tension build up. And I don't think it's going to be this intense as he strikes the water. I think this is a little overkill. But I want to do something along the lines of a golf swing, just so it doesn't look ridiculous, because if you strike the water in this fashion, like this, straight forward and down, you're the one that's going to get the most water on you. So I don't think that was the case. So I want to go for something like a golf swing that's a little bit more away from him, but that still has a decent amount of build-up so that it's visually interesting. I don't think that he felt that he had to force it, but it does say that he struck it. Now, if you struck something, that means you put some effort into it. So I don't think it was necessarily this much effort, but you get the point. Okay, so I just want to follow the storyboards along on paper so that I can see my notes. Not that there's a lot of notes, but you get the point. Okay, so then he strikes the water. And the goal here is to make this splash, as it comes out of the water, make this red already for the blood, and then it spirals out into the rest of the water, as you can see over here. But it won't look like this necessarily, because I want the epicenter to be where he struck it. So that's also something to figure out. So whether it spirals, whether it forks, whether it fades, doesn't matter. I just know that it's pretty much instantaneous. What I would like to do also is to add bubbles that come to the surface as it transforms. I also added the bubbles over here. Where they were, Whether there were or not, I don't know, but I just felt that that was a very cool idea, so I'm taking it as a green light to add it. Okay, so this is a very interesting transition. The scripture says, all the Egyptians digged round about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink the water of the river. So this one would be somebody digging with their hands, because, I mean, this is a kind of an urgent situation. Digging with their hands to get some water close to the river. It's usually soft sand, so you're more than able to do that. But obviously, if you need more water, you would get a shovel or something, or a hoe. You can also use a hoe. So, okay, that's where it goes into the house. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go from this to a hieroglyphic style image to show that 7 days passed from when they struck the river. Now, obviously, if you go by it logically, after 7 days, the water has to be turned back, because there was no point at which Pharaoh said, oh, my bad, we need to turn away from all this stuff, let you go, do your thing. That's not what happens. So the river has to be transformed back after the 7 days. There's also a limit to the amount of time you can have before you actually die of thirst. So my leading, for lack of a better term, is that when the 7 days are up, the river suddenly turns back to normal and they have water again. Because it's really to prove a point, You can't worship a river. So anyway, this is, of course, then when Pharaoh confronts the magicians, they're supposed to, it almost looks like he has a gun. They have to explain it or whatever. And of course, then they have their vessels over here that they strike, and it becomes blood, and Pharaoh is all stubborn, and he then goes into his house. This was supposed to be like a wicked smile, but I kind of drew it more like a gasp or a shout. Whatever. Okay, so this would then show the 7 days passed and the water clear. I'm thinking of a kind of pull-up situation that's divided for day and night to create 7 days, and then put it on the screen as it transitions. Or I could just use a series of wipes with a color overlay or something. Okay, so then God talks to Moses and Aaron, specifically Moses. Let me just get that. Yeah, this is chapter 8 now, and then God says to Moses, go into Pharaoh and say unto him, and this is where the frogs come into play. He says that if they don't let the children of Israel go, then frogs will come. Look at Aaron. Anyway, and then Pharaoh listens, and then he shows them the door. Now, the Bible doesn't specifically say he shows them the door, but obviously he did not listen, because God says to Moses to tell Aaron, stretch out your hands, or your hand with the rod over the streams, over the rivers and over the ponds, to cause frogs to come up on the land of Egypt. So this is, what's the word? It's not an added thing, but it's just to give reason. It's giving a visual reason for God to actually strike it. Because he wouldn't do it if Pharaoh didn't say, get out. Okay, and then he holds out the rod. This hand will be removed because it's just the one with the rod has to be held over the river. Otherwise, it's disobedience. And then the frogs come up. This would be the top of the river or pond or whatever. And these are the little frogs that come to the surface. And then they go into the bedroom, sit on the pillow. This one is jumping. And this is where, oh, this is one of those confused moments where I got them out of order. This one is supposed to be before the close-up, because he's supposed to hold out his hand with the rod over the ponds and rivers and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so then a little bit of for lack of a better term, action lines thing, speed lines. There at the background with somebody running around with a frog on the head, frog in the ovens, frogs on the people. And then the magicians do the same, or similar, not the same, getting the frogs to come out of the river. It's interesting, most of the time they just made it worse. And that's pretty much it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick demo for today. Have a great one and God bless you.